I'm going to make, this is the first part of it. You can make the diary open, but before you go on to make your diary open, we need to apply your modifiers. So when once you open the leaf or the top part of your diary, the boolean still goes with it. Yeah, so before we even apply our modifiers, one thing you need to note is the top part and the bottom part are still one object. So what we have to do here is go to edit mode, click on P to separate, and then click on separate by loose parts. So now we have the top part separate and we have the bottom part separate as a separate object. Now the next thing to do is select this and then apply all its modifiers. Okay, if you move it up, you now see that you still have the boolean cut on it. So let's do the same thing for the bottom. Click on it, go to the modifiers tab, click on Ctrl A to apply the boolean you've selected. Do the same for the middle part, because the middle part, if you bring it up, the boolean cut is not actually there. So click on middle part, and then before you do anything here, make sure you cross check your scales to make sure it's applied. The scale here are not applied. Click on Ctrl A and apply the scale before applying the modifier. So click on Ctrl A here over the modifiers tab to apply this modifier. Move this up, you see that the modifiers are being applied. So right now we want to open our diary. Let's see, just one leaf, the top part. But if you click on R, X, see what it's doing, and this is not what we want. We want it to rotate around the ring. All right, what we need to do here is come over here, select the ring and click on Shift S and then select cursor to selected. So this cursor is going to be here at the very center of the ring. All right, so now if you want to rotate this exactly around the ring, click on the top part, then go to the transform pivot point and then set it to 3D cursor. So now you see, if you click on R and Y, it's going to rotate this leaf along the ring. So this is what we are going to have. So you can still make some modifications to it. You see, this is piercing through. You can move this along the X axis and rotate it along the Y axis. All right, move it to the top a little and move it to the X a little, to have this to just have this illusion of it resting on the other parts of the book. So now you have this. So this is our diary, this is the cover, and this is the body, and this is the bottom part of the diary. After having this, you can add a plane to start setting up your render. All right, move your plane down a little along the Z axis and zoom in to make sure that it's placed a little. Select this, select the ring and move it up in Z direction. All right, then select this and set the rotation to the pivot point and rotate this along a little bit along Y axis and move this up a little. Okay, so you can have this setting. Rotate this again a little along the Y axis. You can also work on this again. Move this up to the Z axis, rotate this along the Y axis, move this down a little. Yeah, let's rotate it a little bit along Y to bring it out of the plane or the floor, so to say. Okay, so we now have our settings. Yeah, we now have our settings here. Let's go to the shading tab, click here and go to the shader editor. So I'm going to do this and duplicate this and move this to the side. So I'm going to make this a closed diary. So click on the top part and click on Alt R to reset the rotation, then be in front mode and move it along the X axis. Okay, move it along the X axis and move it along the Z axis. Okay, so this still has a little bit of rotation in it. All right, let's rotate Alt R. Okay, then move this down and move this along the X axis. I'm supposed to use the snap tool here, but let's just do it like this. Okay, move this down to the Z axis. All right, yeah, so now we have this. We can now select all of these parts and move it up. Yeah, so now we have the closed parts, the closed diary, and now we have the open diary. All right, so first let's work on the closed diary. All right, click on this part and go to the materials view. You can choose to give this any color, but let's go to the render preview mode. You can choose to give it any base color you like. The reason why this is shading all the diary parts is because it has one general name, which is material. So if you go up here, you see this is material. All right, so what we should do here is just to cancel this, then give it a new name. Then let's say book top, and let's make the book top yellow. All right, so this is yellow. Then you can select this, copy the shading information from the second one by clicking Ctrl L and then click on link materials. All right, so you are going to do same. You are going to do same for the bottom part. Click on this other bottom part and click on this other bottom part and click on the top part and click Ctrl L and link your materials. Okay, so this other part that has the material, let's change the color from red to white. Okay, so we now have something like this. All right, so let's save our progress here, and at this point you can do away with your boolean. You can just delete it. Do the same for you, delete it. All right, so for the rings, select the rings, create a new material for it, rename it to rings. All right, then let's just give it a hash color and increase the metallic value all the way to 1. So in Eevee, because we're in Eevee now, you may not be able to see the correct shading information, as cycle render things so real. So let's change this to cycles and take this to the render preview mode. All right, and let's turn on the light and the world so you can have real lights coming in from the environment. All right, so this is what we have for the ring. We have to make it glossy because most times it's metal. All right, so let's reduce the roughness down a little. Okay, so now we have that. Now let's take it back to Eevee, since we've set that already and we've seen it. Click on the other ring and click on the ring you've already worked on and click on Ctrl L to link the materials. Then click on the floor. Let's give it a material. Let's give the floor a material so it will not confuse us, because the white color is actually not in terms with the book leaf and it's kind of horrible to the eye. All right, so let's increase the roughness of this. I made the floor dark a little. So now this is what we have. So let's go to a little advanced shading. So let's come here and let's add an image texture. Select here, go to texture, go to image texture, click on open. I already downloaded this texture from the internet, the book texture. Connect it to the color and click on Ctrl T. Click on the image texture before clicking on Ctrl T to add a texture coordinate. So now what we need to do here is to go to UV editor with the top part of our diary selected. Open the UV editor, then go to edit mode. Go to top view and click on A to select all parts of the top, and then click on U and project from view. All right. So now in your UV editor you have this. Come to your UV editor and click on A to select everything, and then scale what you've selected. Scale it along the y-axis too. Move it up along the y-axis a little. Move this to the x-axis and scale it along the x-axis. All right, so we now have this. Although it is not the same as this texture we downloaded. If you actually want it to be the same, you can come over here to scale the book down. Okay, which you can still do, but it's going to alter what you've done since from the beginning. All right, so let's just leave it here. Or you can bring in a texture that is almost the same size as your book cover. All right, so we have this texture for the top part. Okay, so what else we need to do is come over to these other parts. It's still using the same texture, but what we are going to do here is we are going to separate this inner texture and still keep it on yellow. All right, so click on this, go to top view and select the faces of this. All right, click on U, project from view, and then over to your UV editor. Click on this and move it somewhere here. All right, move it somewhere where you have space. Scale it down a little, move it somewhere here. All right, okay, so now you have this. So what else you need to do to these other parts is we are going to add the book lines to this. So come over here to the shader part, add an image texture, click on open, go to your image texture, which is the book part. Yeah, this is it. Connect this to the color, click on the image texture, click on Ctrl T to add the texture coordinates. All right, so now this is what you start having, but this is not how you really want it to be aligned. Okay, so what you want to do here is take it to edit mode, go to top, click on U, project from view, and you have all this selected. Scale this, move this along the y-axis, scale it again, and try to fit into your diary. Try to fit stuff in. Alright, so now you have this at the top part. It's looking pretty nice. Alright, so when you click on Ctrl I, click on U, Smart UV Project, and click on OK. Alright, so if you go off, this is what the Smart UV Project is going to give you. But just let that be. Come to the UV editor and scale everything to 0.1. All right, and move this to where you have this white texture. All right, so these other parts are just like that. Okay, so now you have this. Yeah, we now have our stuffs, everything is set. So you can select this, Shift A, add an empty, make it a cube, scale it down to the diary you want to parent. Right, and move this here, select everything except the plane and parent this to the empty. So if you rotate the empty, you now have this. All right, so let's change this to bounding box center so you can work on it like this. Alright, so do the same thing over here, rotate it along the Z axis and then bringing this one closer, move it a little bit, okay, and then come somewhere here and place a camera. Let's add a camera to the scene. We deleted our first camera, so Ctrl-Alt-0. Now we have this camera. Then let's give this plane a texture. It's so awkward here. Come over to image texture, go to open. Alright, let's add this texture to it. Then select it, you will unwrap it, select this, scale this down, rotate it a little. Alright, you can, okay, let's make the texture interesting. Let's get the displacement, let's get the normal modifier. Okay, let's add this to the bump, to the height, and height to normal, and then let's change this to non-color. Alright, so let's see what we're having from the camera view. Okay, this is what we have from the camera view. Alright, so yeah, you can choose to add the displacement to this. Okay, so let's duplicate the image texture and change it, add the displacement, connect the vector to this, and then add a displacement node, connect the color to the height, then connect the displacement to the displacement. So now you're not going to see much of a difference here because we don't have much geometry here. So to have geometries, right click on it in edit mode and go to subdivide. Then you can take this to 50. Okay, then click on this and subdivide one more time. So come over here, click on N and go to the settings, change it from displacement to displacement and bump. The displacement and bump can only be seen when we are in cycles. Alright, so in cycles, this is what we have. Okay, so let's come over here to adjust the scale of this displacement so we can still see our group. We now have this. Let's make the color a little bit deeper. Let's add a colorant to this. Alright, so before we render our model, let's go down to the color management and set the look to high contrast. Let's look at the camera view of this. Okay, let's use here, and to align your camera very well to your model, click on N to bring out this panel and go to view and click on camera to view. Then when you start moving your mouse, your camera moves along with it. So this is one of the best ways to move your mouse in 3D, especially Blender. Alright, so when you're done, just go back there by clicking on N and then unchecking this. We can now add in our lights to this. So let's uncheck these two stuffs so you can set our own light, and let's start with using the area light. Let's move this up a bit and let's use this point to see our model, our final render. Let's use this point to see it. Yeah, I guess this is actually okay, but let me scale the lights down a little, rotate it along Y axis. This is where you are going to play with your artistic skills. Actually, you don't need to follow what I'm doing here. Then go to the lights part and let's give it 0.1, bring it down, let's give it 1. Yeah, something like this is so artistic. Let's make it 2. Alright, this is cool. So you can just make a render of any of the stuff, any how you want yours to be, make a render of it. But anyways, you've known how to make something like this, a diary in Blender. Just render this out and have a nice time. You can kindly subscribe to my Patreon and have access to this file. Alright, you can have access to this tutorial file using the link below in the description. Have a nice time, guys. See you in the next one. Thank you.